All right, so ready to ditch the rom-coms and dive into some real love stories.
I'm all for it.
We're talking the New York Times Modern Love column. You know those essays about how relationships actually work today?
Yeah, the nitty-gritty, no sugarcoating.
Exactly, and it's edited by Daniel Jones. Right.
Right, spot on.
So one thing that really struck me was this story about a couple in London, like a cross-cultural couple.
Oh yeah, I think I know the one.
She's from a traditional Indian family, and she falls for this British guy, and it's like suddenly her whole world is turned upside down.
It's like those expectations clashing with like what she actually wants, you know?
Totally. And it's not just her personal story. I mean, it feels like it speaks to something bigger, you know?
Well, for
like-
sure. It's happening more and more now, these,
Yeah.
interracial and intercultural relationships.
Yeah, and they make us rethink those old ideas about, what love should be like.
Right, what we've been told or, what we've seen in movies and stuff.
Exactly. But what I loved is that in this story, even though their families were kind of hesitant at first.
Like they didn't approve right away.
Right. But the couple found a way to bridge that gap between their cultures. They didn't have to abandon who they were.
They created something new, like a blend.
Yes. And it made me think about how love can be this incredible force for bringing people together,
Like bridging divides and stuff.
Exactly. And, I was thinking about this the other day, and there's actually psychology research that shows that when people from different backgrounds, like, really connect.
They actually start to adopt each other's, like, perspective.
Get out of here, seriously.
No, I'm serious. It's like this subtle shift, but it can be really powerful,
Wow, that's fascinating. So it's not just tolerance, it's like actual cognitive change.
Right. It makes you wonder how much relationships shape not just individuals, but like whole communities.
Okay, so it's like this ripple effect, this idea of love's power. I mean, it's everywhere in these essays, right?
Oh, totally. Like even in the more unconventional stories.
Yeah, like that one about the woman who falls for a guy while he's in prison.
Right. That one definitely gets you thinking.
I mean, I think most people would just be like, nope, bad idea.
But the essay goes deeper. It makes you think about judgment and, societal stigma.
It's like she's forced to confront not just her own feelings, but like what everyone else thinks too.
Right. And I think a lot of people would relate to that.
Totally. And that's what's so great about modern love. It challenges us to think beyond the surface, like...
Look beyond the easy answers.
Yeah. There's no one right way to love,
Exactly. Everyone's got their own journey.
Okay. And speaking of challenging norms, the book also tackles technology's impact on all this, like...
Dating apps, social media, the whole shebang.
Oh, yeah, there's that essay where the guy talks about using a dating app.
And it becomes like this social experiment almost.
Totally. I was cringing reading it because he's like valuing quantity over quality, always looking for the next best thing.
Swipe, swipe, swipe.
Yeah. And it's like we've all felt that pull, I think. Like
that fear of missing out if you commit too soon.
Exactly. And there's a name for that, right?
The paradox of choice. It's a real thing, and it's totally messing with how we approach relationships now.
So dating apps are messing with our brains.
Well, they can if you let them take over.
It's kind of terrifying, but also, like, it makes sense.
It does. And the guy in the essay eventually realized he was so focused on finding the perfect match that...
He was missing out on real connections.
Yeah. He had to step back and reassess what was important.
It's a good reminder to be mindful of how technology is influencing us, even in love.
But there's another layer to this, too.
No.
It's not just how we find love. It's what we consider love to be.
What do you mean?
Like you see essays about polyamorous relationships or people who choose to live apart but stay committed.
Oh, wow. So it's like challenging the traditional definition of a relationship.
Exactly. It's like technology is pushing us to ask what we truly value in a relationship, whether it's companionship or...
emotional support or physical intimacy or something else entirely.
Right. And this connects to another big theme. The whole changing landscape of what's considered normal.
Like with marriage and gender roles and all that.
Yep. Think about how much the concept of marriage has changed just in the last few decades.
It's true. It's not just the traditional man and woman anymore. You see essays about...
same-sex couples,
yeah,
LGBTQ plus relationships, people choosing to stay single, couples choosing not to have kids.
It's like a mirror reflecting all these different ways we're living and loving now.
And modern love presents it all without judgment.
I love that. It's just showing us the reality of love in the 21st century, and it makes you think, like...
what does a modern love actually mean to you?
That's a great question.
And as we continue our deep dive, we'll explore how all these stories connect to bigger trends in psychology, sociology, even technology.
Because at the end of the day...
understanding modern love is about understanding ourselves.
I love that.
So, as we dig deeper into these modern love stories,
Mm-hmm.
it's important to remember that it's not always about romantic love.
You're so right. Like, I was thinking about that essay with the woman reconnecting with her father.
Oh, yeah, the one where they were estranged for years.
Exactly. And she had this image of him in her head, like frozen in time.
Based on childhood memories, probably.
Totally. And the pain of their separation, it's like she had to relearn who he was.
It's so common, though, right?
Yeah.
To hold on to those old versions of people, especially family.
Yeah, you either idolize them or demonize them.
But exactly. It can be hard to see them for who they are now,
And in her case, it was this chance encounter at a coffee shop, of all places.
Really?
Yeah, they just started talking, and she slowly started to see her father, like, as a whole person.
With flaws and regrets, like everyone else.
Yeah, and she talks about feeling angry, but also compassionate.
That's interesting.
Right. It wasn't about saying his past actions were okay, but like...
Understanding where he was coming from.
Exactly. And that really resonates with me personally. I think we've all had relationships where...
It's complicated, right? Like love and hurt all mixed together.
Totally.
And it takes a lot of courage to unravel it all.
It does. And, reconciliation doesn't always mean a happy ending.
Sometimes just understanding each other is enough.
Yes. Like, even if the relationship itself can't fully heal...
There's still a sense of peace, maybe closure.
It made me think about that other essay about the guy and his brother who passed away.
Oh, the one with all the tension between them?
Yeah, years of resentment, and they never got to resolve it.
That's got to be a tough kind of grief.
It is, but what struck me was how he used writing to have that conversation with his brother.
Even though it was only in his head.
Exactly. He explored their whole history, and in a way, he found forgiveness.
For his brother and himself.
Powerful stuff.
It shows that even when someone's gone, you can still find healing.
And it brings up this whole other theme of self-forgiveness.
But yeah, that's a big one. We're always harder on ourselves than anyone else.
There's that essay where the woman talks about sabotaging her own relationship.
Because she was afraid of getting hurt.
Yes, and it's like years later, she realizes how her own insecurities
led to the very thing she was trying to avoid.
Totally. But she eventually learns to forgive herself.
Which is huge.
It is, because she realized she was acting from a place of pain.
Not because she was intentionally trying to hurt anyone.
Right, and that's the key, right? Self-forgiveness isn't about condoning bad behavior.
It's about understanding why you did what you did.
And having compassion for yourself.
Exactly like you would with someone you love.
It's like learning to love yourself, even with your flaws.
Which can then spill over into your other relationships.
So true. And this brings us to another layer, I think.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
It's like love as a force for change, not just personally, but in the world.
Ooh, okay, I see where you're going with this.
It's like those individual stories we've been talking about.
They're like little windows into bigger societal shifts.
Exactly. Like that story about the gay couple who decide to have a child through surrogacy.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that one was powerful.
They face so many obstacles, legal hurdles, family pushback.
But their love for each other kept them going.
It's like their journey mirrors the fight for LGBTQ plus rights in a way.
Challenging what it means to be a family.
And it shows how love can dismantle prejudice,
It's like when we see people loving each other despite their differences.
It makes it harder to cling to those old biases.
Exactly. Love can create a more inclusive world.
It's pretty inspiring. So it's not just personal transformation.
It's about how love ripples outwards and impacts society as a whole.
Exactly. And I think that's something important to keep in mind as we move into the last part of our deep dive.
Because these modern love stories, they're not just personal anecdotes. They're part of something bigger.
The evolving story of love and relationships in our time.
And they give us a glimpse into how love can transform not just ourselves, but the world around us.
So we're back, still swimming in the sea of modern love.
Still so much to explore.
I know, right? Like, it's really made me think about how love shapes us, like sometimes in ways we don't even realize.
It's subtle but powerful.
Yeah, and there's this one essay that really stuck with me. It's about this woman who, like, after years of focusing on her career, decides she wants to find a partner.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not that simple, right?
It never is.
No, like she talks about how she had to really look at her own beliefs about success and being independent.
It's like she had to unlearn some things.
Yeah, like she always thought being single meant being strong.
But then she realized that vulnerability and connection are important too.
It's like society tells us we should be afraid of getting hurt, so we avoid it.
And end up missing out on something amazing.
Totally. And a lot of us struggle with that balance, I think.
Especially now when everyone's so focused on achievements and doing it all on your own.
It's like love is rebellion, almost.
I like that. Love is rebellion.
Right, and it's not just about romantic love either. There's that other essay about the man taking care of his mom.
With Alzheimer's, right.
Yeah. That one was really heavy. He talks about all the challenges and the emotions.
The frustration, the sadness, the responsibility. It's a lot.
It is, but through it all, you can see how much he loves his mother.
That unwavering devotion.
Yeah, and he says that experience changed him,
It taught him patience and empathy.
Yeah, and like a deeper understanding of how fragile life is.
And it shows us that love isn't always glamorous,
It's not always about grand gestures or like fireworks.
Right. Sometimes it's about those quiet, everyday acts of caring.
And that's a powerful message, especially in a world that's obsessed with romantic love.
Modern love really expands our understanding of what love can be.
Exactly. It's not just one thing, it's all these different forms.
And each one has the power to change us.
So I guess the takeaway is that there's no single answer to what modern love is.
Because it's different for everyone.
It's messy and complicated and joyful and heartbreaking all at once.
It's about being open to all of it,
Yeah. The question isn't so much what it is,
But
but
how will you choose to love in this modern world?
what will your love story be?
That's the real question. And I think modern love gives us the courage to go out and write our own stories, whatever they may be.